we've always had like a great batch of speakers that have presented for us. So if anyone is watching this right now and you're considering, possibly becoming a speaker yourself, or of someone that might be a good speaker, please let us know. But we're in that mode right now where we're looking for speakers to talk about the Mandela Effect, to talk about their experiences, to answer questions. It also brings us all together, just hearing other people's comments and questions. A lot of times, I had that same question, and then we answer it all for each other. And we all have pieces to the puzzle, right? No one has all the answers, but we have little puzzle pieces that we're all putting together. And we with our own discernment, we figure out what's going on.
And that's one of my favorite parts of these conferences, is the ability to interact with people and get ideas that I normally wouldn't be given, or have people that'll tell me, I've been listening to you for years, you've made an impact on my life. Like, there's been so many people who've given me stories of ways that we've helped them, or ways that we've encouraged them, or different things that have really, really meant a lot to me in these conferences. So
what I love is the fact that when each of these speakers is talking, and even the audience, they're sharing with such sincerity and such authenticity their individual unique experience, and within that we can touch on this universal truth it's beyond words. And so this is part of that energy too. And so if people are considering, if you're out there thinking, is this something that I could participate in? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you'll be supported whether you feel shy or like you want to be a speaker. There's room for everybody, and it's very, very supportive as a community. And we'd just love to have you in Nashville, November 7th through the 10th this year, 2024.
And that's going to be at the Hilton Garden Inn. Make sure you get your tickets online at imec.world, imec.world.
So please, please, please come and be with us.
One of my goals has always been to bring science and the paranormal together. Paranormal is just science undiscovered or misunderstood.
Every time I keep asking how good can it get, this prompts the participatory universe to provide us with answers that we genuinely do want to live the answer to.
Hello, my name is Christopher Anetra. You know me as the Quantum Businessman.
And I say, you know what? I don't need to know where I'm headed. I thought I knew where I was headed before, and I didn't end up there. So why worry about where I'm headed? Why not just accept this now moment, trust that whatever guided me here with you guys that I feel is divine is going to continue to guide me.
The content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe place to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regards to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. IMEC, or International Mandela Effect Conference, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization designed to support ongoing Mandela Effect research. To learn more about IMEC, please go to imec.world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome to the IMEC Open Tables Season 4 already, I think we're in. Episode 5, Mandela Effect, music, and more. We've got a lot of great information for you guys today, and I cannot wait to dig into all of these Mandela Effects. However, before I can do that, I got to bring on my incredible team to dive into this with me. Unfortunately, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson is unavailable at the moment. She may join us later if she's able to. So our thoughts and prayers are with her at this moment as she's dealing with some personal issues going on. So we wish them all the best there. But I do have with me today, guys, Mr. Christopher Anatra. You know him as the Quantum Businessman.
Hey,
How
everybody.
you doing, Chris?
Doing good, doing good.
Glad to have you here. And also we've got Mr. Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. How you doing, Shane?
I'm doing wonderful. It's so great to be here.
Great to have you here. Looks like it's going to be a guys' day today. So let us jump into this incredible show that we have here today, guys. Starting with our show agenda, we've got quite a bit to go over. Board member updates, ladies and gentlemen, followed by a website revamp that we have been very heavily working on in the background. We're very excited to show you guys the new website. Then we have what is HARP? What happened with that? Who sang Blue? Which version? We're about to find that out. 90s country star Leanne, but how do you spell her last name? Think about that, folks. Mr. President's dress. What is that all about? Rizwan Virk, our good friend here at Open Tables, was on Joe Rogan apparently this month. I'm really interested to discuss that. I think I missed a slide now that I think about it. Also, shifty Terrence Howard. Ooh, is Terrence got all shifty on us, folks? What is a B-shine? We're going to find that out. We have some interesting map residue. That's going to be a discussion I'm sure you guys do not want to miss. Mandanimal sponsors, and of course, mailbag and Q&A to finish out the show. So moving on, ladies and gentlemen, starting with our board member updates. Now that I have talked enough, I will hand it over to my team. Chris, how has your month been, my friend?
Oh, my month has been busy, full of travel. This month, coming up in June, I'm going to be doing more work for some more, or at least one big Symphony of Realities episode I'm calling Mechanics of the Matrix, which gives more information about exactly how things work in this reality and basically how all of this has been exposed by these Mandela effects. And what I encourage people to do, especially those of you that are like watching this type of show, other shows about Mandela effects that are fascinated by them, is to really make sure you go to the next level. And the next level is where we start to figure out what this reality actually is, and then how we function in this reality and what we are and what everything is around us. And doing that and taking these certain steps so that we can raise our frequency, clear distortions out of our field. These are the things that help us get to the next level and help us stay on the timeline that's going up, not into the downward spiral of chaos, but continuing to ride the timelines up into the golden timeline. So yeah, thanks for asking, Jerry.
Absolutely. I look forward to the next Symphony of Realities. Guys, if you haven't checked out the Symphony of Realities, that is a lot of fun. Chris goes into some really incredible topics. Every now and then he has an incredible guest on, so definitely check it out. Where can they find that, Chris?
You can find that on my Quantum Businessman channel on YouTube and also quantumbusinessman.com.
Excellent. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Check him out. And Shane, my good buddy, how has your month been, my friend?
Oh man, it's been fatigued. Probably, I guess, since about a week after the solar eclipse. It's I've just been more tired than usual. So that's the feeling of the energies coming in. So I've been feeling extra giddy as well. I've been feeling a lot of excitement, and so that's sort of like my energy update, because I think a lot of people might resonate with that. Other than that, I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of reading books, and of course sessions with people. People are really, people are really just opening up to their gifts and stuff right now, and realizing so much about their journey is kind of culminating at this time. Do you know what I mean? And then meeting people and everything. That's why I'm so thrilled about this. Use this as a plug for our conference coming up. It's so powerful when we all get together like that. So, and I've noticed that in sessions and just meeting up with people, just having someone to talk to for a while is just so powerful. So I want to encourage people to get together with people of like mind that you resonate with. And at this conference is a perfect place to do that, to make some of those real life connections. And you can know we're all real. I know it wasn't until after I actually had my first get together that I really knew people were real. Because before that, you're like, how do I know these people are even real, in the chat? Are these bots? Are they whatever, you know what I mean? So anyway, it's nice to put a name with that, a face and the name together, and just actually meet people in the flesh, especially after, the last few years or whatever. But yeah, if you're interested in reaching out to me, you can go to my website, uotf.net.
And what books are you reading? Would you like to plug any of the books you're reading right now? Or
Actually, my sister and her husband just put out a book. I'm like so blown away, right? So like back in 2017, when I was, waking up to the Mandela Effect, she just, like, her and her husband just, they were still ministers at the time, and they wouldn't hear me out with the Bible changes and everything. And I always tell people, I just kind of let them go about their journey or whatever, and just being there and trying to be loving when I can, but just kind of not going there because I didn't seem to want to go there. And now here it is 7 years later, and they see it happening. They're waking up to all this other stuff, and, they're moving beyond the religious type stuff, that's been like holding them down, because there's a lot of great stuff in religion, but there's a lot of control in there, and they're really awakening to a lot of the control mechanisms that's been in place to really hold us back from our true potential. So yeah, it's really exciting. She just put this new book out called The Imagination Code, and it's really talking about how using your imagination to create a reality, and coming from my sister, who was so religious, this is so mind-blowing that she's like getting into using the power of your intentions to change your reality. You know what I mean? So yeah, I actually just did a video on my YouTube channel, Unbiased and on the Fence, and we had a nice 45-minute chat about the book. So
that is excellent. And I agree with you, Shane, on the other point that you made about everybody getting together and the real emotion that comes out of it, the feeling of being with like-minded individuals, people that you wouldn't normally be able to discuss things that you're actually into, people that will hear you out and go, oh yeah, I remember that happened to me, or I have a like story, I can relate to that 100%.
Yeah,
which you don't find that a lot. And to your sister and her book, I definitely suggest you guys check that out too. The Christians have been saying it for years. They just call it prayer. They all use a different word for it, but they're all talking about manifestation. I've always found that fascinating. uotf.net or Unbiased and on the Fence on YouTube, right?
That's correct. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And of course, I've had a pretty good month. I haven't had anything crazy happen, which is good. I got a promotion at my other job, so I'm very excited about that. Shout out to all of my friends working there listening today. I'm not going to throw the business out there, but definitely shout out to all you guys over there listening today. I do have a new show that we have started. We've dropped the Way Out Wednesday for right now. There's a lot going on in the world over on rippinrabbithole.com, RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. That's where you're going to find my work. I have the We the People Wednesday now, where we do an open forum discussion of different topics. And then, of course, on Thursday night, we have the Freedom Report news over there. So if you're interested in political topics, hop on over to the rippinrabbithole.com. Check us out over there. And then, of course, on Sunday night over on X, my buddy CD Spivey and I do a 30-minute show called Friday Surprise Show. It's a political comedy podcast. So again, if you're into stuff like that, go over and check it out on X and rippinrabbithole.com. That's my update for the month. Again, besides that, not a lot going on, just keeping on and carrying on. Speaking of carrying on, we've got a lot of discussion to carry on today, folks. So let us go ahead and dive right into that now.
And we also dropped,
if we could, our
I was just going to say, we also
producer.
dropped Cynthia's link down in the chat. So if you want to check her out. don't know.
My apologies. Definitely check out Cynthia's realityshifters.com. Cynthia Sue Larson does an amazing job on that website, and she has a newsletter that emails out every month. Do make sure you sign up for that. Always makes my month when I receive that newsletter. So
And we'd love
thank
to
you.
hear from you guys too as well. So if you find any new Mandela Effects or anything, there's our email on the screen there, team@imec.com. We'll all get it. We'll all be able to check it out. And that's how we get a lot of our content, is from you guys letting us know when you notice changes or whatever.
And our website, imec.world. If I could have our amazing producer take a moment to go ahead and put the new website on the screen, folks. If you've been imec.world the last couple of years, you will have known what it looked like. But we have been working very, very hard behind the scenes to try to revamp the website. And I think she's working on getting that pulled up now. It looks absolutely amazing, guys. Go over and check it out yourselves. If you would like, imec.world, imec.world. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the brand new website for imec.world. As you see, we have changed the intros. We've got video. We've got music on there, believe it or not. If you want to listen to the music, we've got different episodes of the podcast right there on the front page. If you would click that menu button there for me. The menu looks absolutely amazing. We've got video pages. We've got conference schedules. We've got areas where you can go to the 2024 event and buy your ticket now. Go ahead and pull that page up for me if you would. Show them where they can buy those tickets to this conference. Right there, ladies and gentlemen, top of the page, right there on the side has the ticket button. You can click the button, get your tickets now for the November 7th through the 10th conference in Nashville. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the team's going to be having talks for the conference, as well as we've got some speakers lined up already. We aren't going to quite announce those just yet. We're still looking for more speakers, as you guys know. But definitely go check out the new website, folks. I think you're going to love it. I know we're really, really proud of it on this side.
Yeah, big thank you to our web developer.
Of work that has gone into it. Chris, you want to give him a quick shout out?
Yes. So we have someone, his name is Sina, who actually created the format for the new website. I'm not sure if he has a link someplace, but he's a great graphics designer. If you're looking for someone to do web work for you, somebody that, I would recommend. He gives things like a really cool, modern, fresh look. He could even help you like with merchandising and that type of thing as well. So yeah, to me, the website completely changes what it was before, just makes it more modern. And I wanted to ask everyone too, because it's new, we basically just launched it. If you find anything that's not working right, send us an email so we can get it corrected as soon as possible. So we went through it ourselves and it seems like everything's okay, but when the public starts using it, then you really start to find where there might have been something where we missed here or there. So if you spot it,
especially on different devices and stuff, because things can be different on different browsers and devices and things like that. So
yeah, like on your iPad versus your cell phone. Yeah,
totally.
Exactly. So yeah, so we're pretty excited about the new website.
So yeah, if you do let us know the device and the browser you're into. That'd be really helpful if you notice something, because it could be something with just one specific browser or something,
Agreed. And yes, I second that sentiment, guys. Never be afraid to email us here at the team. We are always glad to hear from you guys. You're never bothering us. We want to hear from you guys. That is TEAM@imec.world. TEAM@imec.world. All right, folks. Once again, we're very, very proud of our new website. I think it's amazing. I love the color. I love the design. I love the setup. I think it's awesome. Then again, I might be just a little bit really, really biased and not on the fence at all. So which is why that's not my name. That's our good buddy Shane here. So, ladies and gentlemen, getting into the next topic, what is HARP? What is HARP, guys? So we know from studies that it's a array of different metal pieces that are meant to heat up the atmosphere.
Right. he's trying not to give away the acronym here. That's funny.
Right. That are meant to heat up the atmosphere and do research into different aspects thereof. But the question really is, what does HAARP stand for? So I remember it standing for a certain set of words, but this has come into question recently as to what exactly it is. If we could go to the next slide here, we've got two choices. We've got high frequency active auroral program, or we've got high frequency antenna array program. What do you remember, Chris?
Or if you remember something else, write it in the chat, please.
Yeah, it could have been that I remember atmospheric array program. But this is one of those things like the DEA changing from the Drug Enforcement Agency to the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Yeah.
So unless you were like really familiar with HARP, this Mandela effect may not be a big one for you. But what it is now, like for me, like I don't remember the way it is now. So we'll reveal that in a moment. But Shane, what about you?
Yeah, so I only realized it recently when we had the aurora that was seen all over from these solar storms a few weeks back, and they were talking about they fired up HARP during the and I'm like, why would they do that? Well, HARP is known to cause aurora. So I was kind of wondering, were they using it as a shield or whatever? But then I saw the acronym and I'm like, wait a minute, I've heard this name before. I've heard what it stands for before, but it didn't click to me that that's not what it was when I first heard about it back in like the O's, like probably 05, 06, 07, around the time I first heard about CERN and all that. So yeah, I noticed it's definitely different. And then when I brought it to you guys, some of you noticed you remembered it the other way as well. So we just kind of want to see what you guys remember. A or B?
Yeah, I just want to add too. So for people that don't know about it, and again, my knowledge of it is limited, but it's located in Alaska. And according to sources like Wikipedia, I know we trust them completely, it was dismantled in 2015. So that's the official census about what it is. But I think we're primarily talking about like what those initials would stand for. Mm-hmm. Was it dismantled? I don't know. It says officially that it was, but.
Well, I don't know about dismantled. I remember in 15, they finally come out and said, yeah, you guys were right, you conspiracy theorists. Turns out we are really doing that, but we're not going to do it anymore. We're going to give it to the University of Alaska.
Gotcha. And it
That's when it traded hands.
Okay. So what does it stand for now?
So, ladies and gentlemen, the actual answer is High Frequency Active Auroral Program, which honestly, that's what I remember. So it wasn't any different for me. I could see it being called other things in the past. For me, this isn't one, but I could definitely see how it could be for other people.
I think it's just kind of the way that, I don't know, I remembered it when I first heard about it. It was like brand new. The acronym sounds like HARP, the instrument, but it's got the AA. So that's what's different about the spelling of it. So in my mind, when I heard, oh, it's an antenna array, and saw that in the title that it was an antenna array, that's kind of the part I focused on, because it made sense of, it kind of explained the whole facility within the double A's, right? It's some kind of antenna array. And they were talking about, how many watts it can send out and how it can push the ionosphere out and do all these things. But later on, the conspiracy theorists started saying it could do other things like modify weather and things like that.
which, based on what it's supposed to do, it supposedly heats up the atmosphere by sending energy into the atmosphere. That's it by their own admittance, which, if you're heating up the atmosphere, you're changing the way the weather patterns react with the hot and cold in the atmosphere.
But even more so, redirecting it back down into a certain area. And we all know how hurricanes and other things start. You know, it's always about that difference between the temperatures and the weather. So they can add heat anywhere, and it's going to definitely make something happen, right?
Absolutely. And there's even theories that go so far as it being an earthquake machine. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that could be a possibility.
Yeah, when you hear the amount of watts that they're sending out, it's just astronomical. I that wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Well, if you're bouncing it, which what they're trying to do is, one thing they're trying to do is achieve over the horizon communication. So you can't communicate, but only so far because of buildings, natural objects, whatnot. They want to bounce a signal off the ionosphere and back down to the Earth to communicate in areas where you would need a satellite to normally communicate it, right?
Right.
So if you're bouncing energy from one to the other,
yeah, go ahead.
I could see a large amount of energy slams the earth or the ground. I could see that causing some type of interference that could possibly be an earthquake. Like, logically speaking, I could see how that would work.
Right. I was going to say, like, one of the things that came up before is about the particle colliders, that people were surprised there was more than CERN and Fermilabs, that there's all these particle colliders all over. Well, there's also these HARP facilities. So someone in the chat is saying they thought they remembered it in New Zealand, and I believe there is one in New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Let's see. HARP facilities. Yeah, so there's several of them all over the world, you know.
Oh, really? So these have grown since the original one that was.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like the CERN particle colliders. Now they're all over the place, and now they're all over the world. So what I was going to say is, if they're in concert working together, like the different arrays are part of a bigger array, then they can probably direct it anywhere they want. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Because they can focus them all on one spot if they want.
Right.
Yeah.
That would make a lot more sense. And they're able to work together from different points of the globe, so no telling what they're able to do at that point.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But why would they turn them on when we're having solar storms? Chris, do you think they're trying to block the energies coming in, or what could be going on there?
I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't really know what's going on with that, but it is fascinating that the new the acronym includes the word aurora, because so for a lot of us, that's the one thing that, besides you, Jerry, for Shane, I even think for Cynthia too, she was like mystified by the word aurora, and auroras are catching the news, right? It's catching our attention, especially with the big solar storm we had a few weeks ago, and there may be more coming. I know that this morning we had another X-class flare. During the night, we had 2 M-class flares. Yeah, so, and there's a possibility we're going to be seeing more auroras. Like, it could be more of a common thing. So,
didn't we have something shoot off in the last day or two also, X or something like that, in the last couple of days?
Yeah, don't we have one on the way? I do know the part of the sun is coming around the room again. The one that
those big sunspot groups, like they've stayed together, and they're now starting to become Earth facing again. The same ones from a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's exciting, because as soon as they line up with us, and if they pop off, then we'll probably get another solar storm show.
Or could the amount of energy they're pumping in be causing timeline inversions?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
With the amount of power that I remember, it was just a tremendous amount of power, you know, like in the millions of watts or something ridiculous. And it's
you brought it up yourself. Why turn it on during an aurora unless you're attempting to add energy to it for some reason?
And that was the other thing. I wondered if they changed it, because, I mean, say they fired it up, it was antenna array, but now they have to change the name to include aurora in there, because every time they fire it up, people see the aurora above the facility, right? So I thought maybe they changed it at some point, but.
And they may had. Now that's something interesting too. Maybe it was originally antenna array, and I only found it after it was changed. You know, that's a possibility too.
because that's one of those things that when I found out about it in the zeros, I didn't really revisit it anymore. You know, it was just like, oh, that antenna array facility, you know. HARP.
Right. Which makes more sense to call it what it is.
Right.
And
But when
it's
I
an
heard,
array.
you know, when you read out HARP, I've heard that before. I just didn't put it together. You know what I mean? So it wasn't
Right.
like I'd never heard it before. So I think they've been calling it that for a while now, and I just didn't realize it, you know.
And that may be the case, just a naming convention between the two, but that's an interesting one. I'd love to hear what the chat has to say. And okay, Lisa Henderson says, I heard of it in the 90s and certainly recall antenna array as part of the acronym. Not associated with Aurora Borealis. Also did hear lots of negative reports concerning the effects and the agenda.
Mm-hmm. That's why they ended up shutting it down, right?
So like Lisa, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching after the fact, we would love to hear from you down in the comments section underneath the video. Feel free to leave your thoughts and feelings on any of the things that we discuss here today. We do go back through, we do read those, and if you have any questions from this episode, we actually include them in the next episode, so make sure you drop those there too. Chris, go ahead.
I was going to say too, so we have a lot of activity, you know, from the sun. We're seeing auroras. There's the concept that these type of things are affecting timelines, emerging timelines. And I've been noticing myself, and I've been getting personal emails from people too, especially about personal Mandela effects. So people should be on the lookout for even those happening more and more. Like I'll be driving around my neighborhood and it looks so much nicer than it did before. Some of the houses that were kind of run down and stuff, I'm like, did they just fix that house up last night? Or, you know, whatever it is. Or why is my supermarket more spacious than it was before? Or, you know, whatever it is. Building locations changed. Like there was a church that always used to be set back from the road that I would go by. And you have to go up this long driveway to get to it. And now it's almost on the road. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So we have the big Mandela effects that affect all of us. And then we've got the personal ones. So keep on the lookout for that, because it appears as we're going forward in time, these timelines are merging more and more and more and more. So we should see all kinds of big Mandela effects and personal ones too.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Definitely some stories to keep in mind for the upcoming conference too, I'm sure, Chris. I was going somewhere with that and I forgot my segue. Dadgummit. Don't you hate it when that happens?
Probably the next slide.
Seriously, Nashville is where we're going to be. And Nashville is the home of a lot of legendary country music. There's a song that was known to be a legendary country music song. Well, it may not have been sang by the original person that they thought sang it. If I could have a bit of audio here, the song Blue. So I don't mean the I'm blue, da-ba-dee. No, that is not the one we're discussing here today. We're talking country. So here we go. We're getting no audio. Let's see. Yeah. It's an altered audio for some reason. It's not working. That is interesting. Nothing.
So Jerry, you're just going to have to sing it for us.
Yeah, if you want to keep your hearing, you don't want Jerry singing that, I assure you. Especially if you got headphones on, folks, your ears will be bleeding if I start singing. But Patsy Cline is the one, Rose says, sang this. So who do you guys remember singing the song Blue? So first you got to be from the generation to even know what it was, right? Patsy Cline as well as Leanne Rhymes, says Rebecca B. There we go. There we go. See if it plays through now or... Yes, producer. There we are. All right, go ahead and pause it right there. That'll be perfect. Thank you so very much, producer Heather. She does such an amazing job, guys. Round of applause. Producer Heather, absolutely
Thank you,
great
Heather.
job.
She's awesome.
But that looks like Patsy Cline says Rose. Yeah, they did use Patsy's picture. Absolutely. So the thing is, I remember Patsy singing it. I remember when Leanne did it, it was a tribute to Patsy. She gave interviews about it. She spoke about how Patsy did an amazing job. She could never cover it like Patsy did. She did her best. However, that reality does not exist anymore, folks. Chris, do you remember this song?
I am not a good one to talk about this Mandela Effect.
That is an honest answer, and I appreciate it. Shane?
This one's really weird. Okay, so for me personally, I knew about the song. I knew it from Patsy Cline, and I remember when, because I'm not into country music, right? So when Leanne Rimes came out with it, it was ear candy to me because I knew it from when I was so little, hearing it, even though it was country, it was still good to hear it again. And I definitely remember hearing, and she sang it very similarly with the yodeling and all that to how Patsy Cline sang it. So I'm like blown away because if you go look at it now, the story is the original guy doesn't even yodel. Somebody else covered it in the 70s that it wasn't even very popular. I don't know if she'd heard that version or not. He yodels it in a little bit different way than she does. So it's like, how did she know how Patsy Cline originally did it to copy her? But because it doesn't exist, right? So her story, real quick, she says when she first got the song, her dad had threw it out. And then she went in the trash because she was young. She said, I can decide which songs I want to sing. So she pulled it out, added the yodeling thing. Her dad comes back home, hears it. He says, now it's a good song. And then they decide to record it. So actually the version you hear, even though she was 13 when it was released, that voice, they accidentally released the 11-year-old version. She's only 11 years old in the version you guys were just hearing there. I'm like mind blown because I thought she was more like 15. So 13 sounded right. I don't know, man. It's just so weird because it's like everything's different about it than what I remember. She's like way younger. It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. And the more I looked in it, the more confused I got. It's like, it just doesn't look like the reality I grew up in. You know what I mean?
Right. Like we grew up through this happening. I remember when Leanne released it. We'll get to Leanne in a minute.
Right.
Are we going to talk about Bill Mack?
That's exactly where I was going next, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
That's where I was going.
Please. Okay.
So the original creator of the song, co-writer, Bill Mack, was the first one, a guy, to ever record the song. Not Patsy Cline. Patsy never recorded. As a matter of fact, she was on her way to record this song when she died. No joke. That I've looked it up. She was on her way to record it, never made it to recording this song.
Whoa. That's like the opposite of alive again, right? Dead before her
time. Dead again.
How old was she? Yeah, no, how old was she?
That I'm not sure.
Okay.
But
so it's almost like, what if they postponed the recording date, right? It was like originally done sooner. Like the death didn't change.
Right.
But maybe the recording date changed. So we don't have it now. But clearly she was about to do it. But we remember it.
We remember Patsy singing it. All of us, at least of that age,
that's remember
Patsy singing it and Leanne covering it. Bill Mack was not, well, I'm not going to lie, I've heard the name before, but aside from that, being a Nashvilleian, Bill Mack is not a name that is widely known as the singer of the song. I'm sure most of our audience had never heard the name before we brought it up.
So in this reality, Leanne Rimes didn't do it because she heard it. Bill Mack actually contacted Leanne Rimes' father and sent the song to her. That's how it played out this time. So it wasn't like she loved Patsy Cline's version and recorded it. Bill Mack actually approached them with the song.
Which
and her dad initially rejected it. It's
completely different reality. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is really, I'm just going to add to the story because I just looked this up. Patsy Cline died in March of 1963. She was around 30 years old. She died in a plane crash with country performers Cowboy Kopaz, Hawkshaw Hawkins, and her manager Randy Hughes. She died in a plane crash.
So the original story that a lot of people remember was a car crash, not a plane crash.
Sounds like the
Because I was discussing this with someone during the week outside of the team, and somebody mentioned it was a car crash, and I said, well, I thought it said plane. Maybe I looked at it wrong because I wasn't sure. I didn't have it in front of me, you know.
Yeah.
But now that you bring that up, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, this is getting really suspicious. I don't know.
Rebecca in the chat remembers a car crash as well. And plane crash does not sound familiar to me. Car crash sounds more familiar. But I'm not sure. I couldn't be sure about that one. But I don't know. The plane crashes kind of stand out, you know, for some reason.
Yeah, they do, because of the Big Bopper and whatnot, and that big one. So, you know, ever since then, people kind of started noting the plane crash victims, celebrity victims.
Wild.
The plane crashed in Camden, Tennessee.
Yes, one of the only two places, side note, that has a drive-in theater left in the whole country.
Yeah, we have one.
The Buddy Holly plane crash, Rebecca. Right. For instance, the Buddy Holly plane crash.
Mm-hmm.
So she was in a car crash first, but lived through it, then died in the plane crash to J.D. Peterson. Now, that's interesting. Again, that's not what other people remember. I don't remember either way. I had no idea how she died till I did the research. So that's, you know, I can't speak on that. Rose says she was definitely told Klein had unalived herself.
Oh, wow.
So very, very interesting. But apparently, ladies and gentlemen, we're not the only ones. If we can pull up the next slide, please. When I went into the comment section under this particular video, the first comment I've found says, for those of you like me who remember Patsy singing this song, let's see what we have in common. So this reminds me of when we first found the Mandela Effect as a community. Everybody's like, what do we got in common? What do we all, how do we are connected?
Right. Yeah, it's awesome when somebody remembers how you remember, you know.
So this person says, I'm 59 years old, live in Ohio Valley, grew up listening to Wacky Radio and Wolfman Jack, who I also kind of took some inspiration from in my show. Wacky played all genres of music, not just one. So I like all kinds of music, not just one. I do not watch a lot of television or mute or skip over commercials. I am, so I'm not going to read that line. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. There's one person like us independently, this is 9 months ago, who was very, very confused about Patsy not singing it. Next slide, please. We've got an even longer one here, and I included this because I think it has some important information in it, to be honest with you. History has changed. I listened to Blue, Patsy Cline, on repeat for about 2 years, 86 to 88. I do not like country music, but my roommate at the time was a huge Patsy Cline fan and had an LP record of Patsy's biggest hits. I loved every song on that album, but especially Blue, and could sing every word of every song in order. I didn't even know Leanne Rimes sang the song until I saw it in this video, listened to it, and said, that's not Patsy, what gives? After some research, I was shocked to learn why. Leanne's version is a Patsy cover, but if Patsy supposedly never sang it, then how did Leanne know to sing it the way she did? As you said, Chris, without question, Patsy Cline sang it better. There's zero chance I heard someone else singing this and am confused. I do not listen to the radio and have listened exactly one album with Blue, and it was a Patsy Cline album. I tried to find Patsy's version, but couldn't. However, I found her listed as the singer of Blue on 4 different artist site song lyric websites. Patsy sang Blue. You can agree, argue about it, call me a liar or crazy or question the nature of reality, Mandela Effect. Your choice. P.S. If you never got to hear Patsy sing Blue, I'm truly sorry for you. And I second that.
I thought Leanne Rimes did a pretty good job. I remember thinking, you know, a lot of times when a remake's done, it makes you want to really just go hear the original because it doesn't quite hit the spot. I remember Leanne Rimes hitting the spot for me, like as far as like hitting the notes and doing it the way I remembered it. So I'm
not big on remakes at all. I think they're kind of annoying. If you cover something, you better be as close to the original artist as possible. And I thought Leanne did a great job in her cover of Patsy's version of it that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that lo-fi record version of it with the little, you know what I mean? It's like you could probably add
Yes.
that record effect to Leanne Rhymes and get a little taste of it, you know.
Speaking of Leanne Rhymes, I'm interested that I seen her name spelled out in the chat a little bit ago, and it's not the way I remember it being spelled. Rhymes, the last name. Leanne Rhymes, here we go. J.D. Peterson, R-H-I-M-E-S, sang this tune, but I wouldn't be surprised with the Patsy confusion, as I think Leanne is Patsy reincarnated. Just saying. I love it. Up earlier, I seen Rose, I believe it was, talking about R-I-M-E-S. That was way back there somewhere. I really don't expect you to find it. Okay, right there. I found it. Rose, yes, at 1:36 p.m. Says R-I-M-E-S does sound a bit like Patsy Cline. So the question is, what's the right spelling of the last name? Leanne Rhymes covered it as well. R-I-M-E-S. There we go. So we've got two different examples here. One could say, well, one person spelled it wrong, the other spelled it right. No, I think they both spelled it as they remembered it, because we ran across this ourselves. What is the correct spelling?
Oh, we messed up the
Of
first
the
name on
name?
accident. But yeah, it's actually Leann. I just noticed. So we're
Oh,
talking
is
about
it?
the last name, not the first name.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my bad. I messed that up. So if you're tripping on the first name, my apologies. That was a Jerry mistake.
He stuck an extra E in there, so it's not actually Leanne. It's Leanne. Okay, so we're
didn't realize
looking at the last two. So man, I remember it being spelled like Rhymes except an I instead of a Y. So I definitely remember an H in there. I'm with the H group.
Yeah, I'm with the H group too. I definitely remember Rhymes. RH.
And I second that. I remember RH Rhymes. Louisa remembers RH Rhymes. So this is interesting. Again, I've seen it spelled RI a couple times by some of our guests here. That's very interesting. Could be PR retooling of her name, maybe. I couldn't find examples of that. From what I can find, it's been RI all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Like when she came out, when she originally, her first album, The Whole Nine Yards, has always been RIMES.
But she's one of the ones that the auto checker or the auto finisher or whatever, when you're typing in, sometimes you'll start out RH and it will finish it for you. Like recommend that. And
right.
You'll get that a lot with some Mandela Effects. It's like the spell check or the whatever it's suggesting didn't get the memo that that's not how it's spelled.
Well, the reason is going off of what everyone else has typed in.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
So
yeah, when
everyone
it's
else
suggesting,
clearly
right. Yeah, that's true.
Is saying the same thing. We're all remembering it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So Rose says, never really paid much attention, not sure how name is spelled. And that's fine, Rose. So that wasn't necessarily an intentional spelling.
Yeah.
That was just the best way that it sounded. That's fair. But it has come into play because, ladies and gentlemen, the actual answer is what? No. That's not right.
Yeah, Rhymes, no H. Just
No
looks
H.
wrong. It's misspelled.
This is wild.
So
go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say, like, this phenomena of people's names changing is very, very popular. You know, one that hit me like maybe 6 months ago was Evil Knievel went to Evel Knievel. It was always evil, like E-I-V-I-L. Now it's always Evel, E-V-E-L, Knievel. And I just wanted to mention too, like, you know, when it comes to these timelines, we talk about timelines merging and so forth. There's another concept too that I want to I've spoken about it before, but just to bring to people's attention as well. There's the concept of timeline editing. where timelines can be edited for a certain result and edited into the main timeline that we're experiencing right now. And when this timeline editing happens, let's say from a group that's above us, if they don't know exactly what they're doing, it causes Mandela effects. So there could have been a reason in the 60s for them to make a modification to a timeline and edit something new into it without realizing that it has repercussions and will cause these things that we see now as Mandela effects. So we've got timelines merging, we've got the whole timeline editing concept, and all of these things just add to like what's going on and help us to see like how this reality is actually working. So like I said at the beginning, it's one thing for us to spot these Mandela effects because it shows the reality is not what we think it is. But then to go to the next level, like why are they happening, and what are we, and what is this reality, and so forth. So I just wanted to mention the timeline editing concept as well.
I appreciate that, Chris. Definitely interesting. So when you say editing, we've had a question here. Are we talking programmers, time travel, higher selves? Who would be the editors?
Well, on a basic level, I'll call them the chess players. I'll call them like let's say the dark ones and the light ones, like trying to get some kind of an effect, or trying to see what will happen if they change something in the historical record. And there's all of these things that we would consider negative timeline effects. And I've made videos about those as well. And then they get countered by positive timeline effects. So exactly, how is this happening? Is there another reality above us called base reality, which is kind of looking down on the game that we're in right now and is like doing these things to have a certain effect on how things are going to react, how the global narrative, sometimes it's just for strategies. Like they may change something to see how people react to it in the 60s and then be like, oh, this is how they reacted to it, and this is how it changed history. So we're going to keep this timeline insertion. And then let's say another group looks at that and says, you know what, we're going to try to counter that and make it so that it doesn't have a big effect. Meanwhile, we've got these Mandela effects that we observe in our reality because of our memory, because we remember what these things are, and people can't take away our memory. They're not going to say like, RH, that's completely ridiculous, and I could prove to you you're confabulating with the RI rhymes. But no, we know better, and we're advancing. So we know the game is afoot, as Sherlock Holmes would say. So
Chris over here cursing, talking about confabulation.
That's a good point, though.
Yeah, just to add some more concepts for people to like. Is this a puzzle piece that somehow fits into everything else that we're discovering?
Well, let's take a little tangent and talk about them. Do we think them being the white hats and black hats, both sides of this chess game, do we feel like these are just part of the families that run the world, or do they have help from extra or non-terrestrials, or is this more of a spiritual thing with angels and evil spirits and things like that? How do you think it is? You think it's a little of everything? That's what I figure. It's probably a little of everything, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it goes beyond like white hats, dark hats, gray hats, and most of them are actually literally NPCs, to be honest with you. They're parts of how the game is constructed and how that's run, but it's all like a level above us, and what I would call base reality, and how the game has been taken over, so to speak, and we're in the process of really winning it back. And we've had to wait to this certain era of time. We're in a new era of time, a new era of light, so to speak. So now things are changing. So we're finally able, like I feel that things are going to finally be able to be restored to those of us that, are on this golden timeline or have the intention to be there. And then there's another group that doesn't want that. They want to continue, I call them the global narrative. They want to continue like influencing us with fear and making us make decisions, not based upon common sense, but because we're afraid, and with their own agenda of what that could be. And when we watch the news, we get a big dose of that all the time. So don't watch the news. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's trying to like program you to go in a certain direction. So yeah, it's really all about raising our frequency so that we're vibrating at a higher level and going up in the timelines instead of down in the timelines. But yeah, exactly who's who in the whole scheme of things. Yeah, that's another discussion. Yeah.
So you're talking about up in the boardroom, outside of time, sort of
outside of linear time.
It's like me and you are sitting looking at the Sims game going on the computer, and we can reprogram something if we want. We can make changes. So it's like at that level. And that's kind of what me and Jerry always said. We didn't think time travel was possible because you would need to get outside of the game to do it. You couldn't do it from within the game, right? Because you're stuck in time. It's like trying to change it, reprogram a game that you're playing from the character within the game. You could never do that, you know?
You can't change the programming on the computer as a character in The Sims.
Right. So to answer the chat question, it is like reprogramming, but from a higher level outside of what we consider to be reality. I mean, even beyond space and everything, right? We're talking just a completely different realm.
Yeah, exactly. In a realm where we're having this 3D experience, you know, we have like flesh and blood, biological carbon-based bodies. Where outside of this, we're consciousness energy. We're indestructible. We're infinite. Right. But here, you know, we have a completely different experience. We have the 5 senses, and I believe there's going to be more senses that come online. And I believe that now, with the help of the sun, cosmic radiation, vibration of the planet, our bodies are starting to produce more amino acids. What happens? What do amino acids form? DNA. So I believe that all these things are advancing to help us get more of those strands of our DNA activated to what we should all be, at least at 12 strands of DNA. Like that. That's the minimum that we should be at, that have been taken away from us. So we have all of these influences that are helping us, and then we've got influences that are trying to hold us back, whether they're spraying the skies with chemicals, you know, or whatever it is. I don't know how much I could talk about here on this channel, but yeah. But we all know these things that are happening.
Right. Those of us who have been deep researchers, absolutely. So it's all connected at one level or another.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And we're here, of course, to bring it back around to the music, Mandela Effects, as we've had quite a few of them over the years. We've got one we're going to review right now. It's kind of an older one, but okay, not the one I thought we were going with. All right, it was I thought we had them in a different order. Never mind. So it's an older song. This one is not an older effect. Is the new effect for me. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you, my friend.
Yeah, so this one I saw, it was posted on a Mandela Effect Facebook group where someone had noticed a very slight change in the lyrics, but to me kind of says a lot, especially the whole concept of this song, The Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. So, you know, a lot of people know we all live in a yellow submarine. So they know that song. But one of the things that changed, at least for me, maybe some of the other people that are watching this, where at the very beginning of the song, it goes, in the town where I was born, lived a man who blank the blank. So I wanted to know, like, what people remember the rest of that line of that lyric, how that goes.
Green Heart has answered the question already the moment we put up the slide. They said, sailed to sea. So they think the line is, there was a man who sailed to sea. Anybody else have lived a man who loved the sea? Ask Rebecca B.
Yeah, so this one, this one's a little subtle. So
Lisa sailed the seas. JD Peterson sailed the seas. So I think we've started to narrow in on the argument here. Sailed the seas, says Vicky Hatters. Chris.
Shane, what do you remember?
Purple kayak.
Well, I listened to it, and
what did it say, purple kayak?
Rose says purple kayak.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember the sea when I listened to it, and I was listening to what stood out to me, and it sell to see is what I heard, and I was like, what? That's not how it sounds. It just sounds wrong to me. Definitely the is what I remember. Sell to sea, or maybe
I
even
second
seas,
that.
but
I second that. Shane sailed the sea.
yeah.
And you're right. Two sounds out like a sore thumb. Sail to sea. What did he say?
Right. And it almost sounds like fell to sea to me because it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, because their accent. Sailed the sea, I had thought, said consciousness. Watch.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna agree for myself. Well, do we have another slide that shows the answer? I don't remember if we do or
No,
not.
sir. No,
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to be in agreement with most of the people here, where the man who sailed the sea. In this reality, it's sailed to sea. It's very subtle, but when you listen to it, it's like what, like what Shane was saying, it kind of stands out. Sail to sea. And by the way, when it comes to these Mandela effects, nobody's wrong. You know, it's
Right.
what you remember.
Yeah.
You're at a certain vibrating at a certain if your avatar is vibrating at a certain frequency and you are in a certain reality and you remember sail to sea, that's cool. But I remember sailed the sea. Now, what I think is interesting about this is, you know how the English language is primarily spell casting, like the word no could be N-O or it could be K-N-O-W. Same thing with the word sea. It could be like an ocean, S-E-A, or it could be sea, like vision, exactly. So this man who sailed to sea, he wanted to know what was going on in the reality. And do we all live in a yellow submarine? Like, what's the concept of this crazy song by the Beatles? Like, are we in a reality that we really, like, if you're in a submarine, you can't just get out. If you're in the ocean, you just can't get out of the submarine. You're kind of trapped. So could that be part of, and I feel this song has a lot of clues inside of it, but the whole thing is, I think that it begins to give us an understanding of also how the realities work and perhaps a type of enclosure that we're in, that it's not easy to get out of, whether that's the Earth, the solar system, however you want to look at that, or both. So he sailed to sea. He sailed to have knowledge. He wanted to know what was outside of his submarine, and he wanted to go to a land of submarines. Like, were there other realities that were also enclosed in their own enclosure that it wasn't easy to get out of? But everyone's having their own experience, and the band began to play, and everyone's like da 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 da, like the reality of life, all the distractions to keep you like locked into the reality and not want to leave the submarine because, oh, we're having a good time in here. Why would you ever want to leave? So I thought this was interesting because it kind of, the lyrics kind of helped you to discover like on another level about what's going on, as well as a lot of these changes. I was talking about how they're clues, like they're not random. Like we get a Mandela effect, whether it's a Bible Mandela effect or whatever it is, a Star Wars Mandela effect, and it gives us a clue to the way the reality works. So that's my input on this one.
Fascinating, because it makes a lot of sense actually in the reference. I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for here. Not allegorically, but well, yeah, I guess allegorically would work. But in the reference that you're making as the submarine being reality itself, we're trapped within reality. As we said a moment ago, you can't go outside of reality as a sim to change anything, right? As we were talking about in the last one. So we would be trapped within the submarine, can't get out of the submarine. Why would you want to leave? Everything's so fun here. Look at this. It all makes a lot of sense, Chris. So I will definitely give credit on that. That's very interesting way to look at it. Shane?
Yeah, I was just reading the chat. Rebecca B says, or a metaphor.
Thank you. That's the word I was actually looking for.
She also says, whoa, mind blown. Let's see. Oh, the Orion file says waters above and below. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so I thought what you were saying, was awesome. And I, Chris, with, this whole analogy of sailed to sea. And I think of our intro used to have that sailing song, right? Because
Yeah.
it is like takes you where you want to be, right? So it's
Right.
like you're sailing to see what it's all about, right? So I love that. That was perfect, and I think it probably makes a lot more sense on LSD with judging by that picture there.
I was going to say mushrooms, but LSD works.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. That's what that was.
There's another one, a rock song that has had a Mandela effect in it also. This is the one I thought we were going with. This is an older Mandela effect for some of you guys. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, ladies and gentlemen. I love rock and roll. Again, the opening line. Chris, you're good at finding these opening line Mandela effects. That's interesting.
Yeah, put another dime in the jukebox, baby.
People are already chiming in. I saw him blanking there by the record machine.
Yeah.
What was he doing, you guys?
Yeah. So Shane, what do you remember there? What was he doing there by the record machine?
He was just chilling, standing there, looking cool like James Dean. That's what I imagined.
What about you, Jared?
That's what I remember. I remember him standing there by the record machine.
Yeah, same here. He was standing there looking cool by the record machine. And now, as probably people may or may not know, is I saw him dancing there.
He was what?
He was. Now he's a little nerdy and he's dancing.
Getting down and boogieing.
Before he was.
That's hilarious.
So he's dancing by the record machine now. So I definitely remember standing. 100% dancing is definitely different for me.
Yeah, that's funny. Somebody saying they saw, let's see, Rose says, I saw Joan a few years ago in T.O. Still rocking. Yeah, I actually saw Joan open for Heart. Was it 2019 in Dallas, and still rocking. And I wasn't expecting, as I was expecting to hear standing, and then I remembered the Mandela Effect when she sang dancing. She actually said dancing live. So it's crazy.
It was Kevin Bacon, says the Orion Files. I like the one before that. Paisley says he was holding a cornucopia, wearing a monocle and braces.
Oh, man.
Green Heart has a dual memory, something else we see every now and again in the effect, a dual memory. This is a really fascinating in and of itself. Says, I'm confused now, says Green Heart. I seem to remember both.
That's how it was for me when it stood out. I was like, I think I've still heard this version a few times without realizing it. So I think that can happen, because I noticed my kids when they were working at the grocery store, they wouldn't notice any of the product changes because they're subconsciously seeing it the new way all the time. And it kind of just overwrites the way it used to be if you're constantly being fed it subconsciously, because nobody's staring at the cereal as you walk down the aisle, but your brain is picking it up and seeing it that way. It's a weird thing.
E. Rudolph says standing came to mind first, but then I remembered it was dancing. The original song was by the Arrows, and I wonder which one it says.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a remake.
I did not know it was a cover either. Absolutely not. Interesting. So it looks like we have some more research to do, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't remember anyone else singing that song.
Yes. So there's a good concept too. So what happens when we get the dual memories? Is it Ludwig von Beethoven or Ludwig van Beethoven? Or maybe we remember both. Von and van both sound familiar to us. So could it be that we're actually uniting fragments of our consciousness from dual timelines? And that's going to happen more and more and more and more. Maybe there'll be a third way that this song is now. Maybe it'll be, I saw him, I don't know. Leaning on the dancing. And then we remember the three ways. How could that be? So, yeah. So I believe that these are all super, when you have a dual memory or more than a dual memory of something, I think that's super positive because you're uniting parts of yourself from other timelines, the way I see it. So, and I believe that's going to be happening more and more to us as well. So keep that in mind as well.
Well, I will definitely take a positive answer any day. So they're discussing over here in the chat. They've really got the discussion going. I love this. Rose says the Arrows version is dancing and it's about a woman.
Oh, interesting.
Which E. Rudolph backs up, says the Arrows says dancing too.
Wow. Live research on the fly. Thank you guys. We got a little think tank going here, don't we?
Absolutely. So this is what we're talking about. We definitely have community support and support each other. Definitely. So if you're interested in being a speaker with the International Mandela Effect Conference this November, definitely contact us. As you see here, a prime example of the support of the community as well as the team. So if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, if you're really considering it, yeah, that was a jab at you, Shane. If you're really considering whether or not you should, definitely drop us a line and be a speaker this year in Nashville. Sorry, find a intro or entrance there for a promo. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. And sometimes people have great ideas and just a whole different theory of what might be going on or something. I love to hear stuff like that. That's the cool thing about it, is hearing the different ideas people have.
Oh, I love when somebody comes up with a new theory, dude.
Right.
I've been stuck in theories for so long, and there's only like so many. When somebody comes up with something I've never thought of, oh my God, you're a genius.
Yeah. A fresh idea.
Holy crap. We have in the chat here a link to the speaker form to fill out if you are interested in becoming a speaker for IMEC 2024. Again, I highly encourage it. We should have some older speakers on that have spoke for the conference before, just to give their insight sometime. I think that'd be cool. Maybe with something we'll work on going forward.
Yeah. I just wanted to add too that, a lot of these music Mandela effects affect people, and then they get confused and then they move on. And one of the famous ones was with that song, "We Are the Champions," right? Everyone remembers at the very end, there was the reprise that said, again, "of the world." And then there was that one video, I think, with James from the James Corden show.
Yes.
George Clooney and Gwen Stefani and Julia Roberts, I think they're in the back.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, they're singing away. And they're all at the very end of the song, they go, "of the world," and then it never says that. So,
right.
Yeah, so people.
Yeah, Clooney's face at the end of that song. We are the champions of the world.
He goes, "That was rough, man." Yeah. So so these, like, the songs and the music, and people sing along to song. People memorize song lyrics. Like, I've been with so many people with them singing in their car. Like, I know they know the lyrics really well, and when it changes, it's like, it must have been something with that particular song. It couldn't be, the actual lyrics changed throughout time. So.
Oh, I heard it wrong the first 900 times I heard it. Now I suddenly heard it the right way.
Right.
And don't you think it's just odd that a lot of the Mandela effects, I know they're popular and they affect so many different things, but you'll see things like reemerge, like the movie about Queen, where he sings it at the end of the world, and that kind of confuses it, right? And then there's the Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood movie that's named off of the original line of the song that no longer exists. So it's like all these things to insert, like, just so they have more to say. That's why you're confused,
right?
Even though we were talking about it before the movie.
Right.
Exactly.
You're just thinking of the movie. That's where the confusion comes from. No.
Right. And even in the movie, they sang it on the subway, the original play, right?
Right.
That's just strange.
It was in effect before the movie. That's one of them they're going to warp later on. You're right. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's, like, I'm thinking there's so many of these. Like, another one is that song by I always used to know them as Chumbawamba. "I get knocked down,
right,
I get up again." That song.
Tub thumping.
Yeah. They're no longer called Chumbawamba. They're called Chumbawamba.
Really?
Yeah, Wamba.
Huh.
Chumbawamba. WAMBA. Like, this stuff is, like, never ending.
Yeah, Jen. My friend Jen made me realize that another one, like yin yang, used to be yin yang. I'm like, oh, it totally did used to have a G on it.
Yeah, yin yang.
Yeah, now it's yin yang. But and I just didn't realize it. Just started spelling it the new way, like NPC.
Right. Like, at what point does it switch and we just go, oh, okay.
Right. Almost
Or
like
do we
switching
get a
it.
download?
Right.
That's another concept of the Mandela Effect, the download concept.
What's the download concept?
So this is one that I'm not fully 100 on board with, but so you're talking to somebody and you bring up a Mandela Effect. Say you bring up the Berenstain Bears, just a very basic, simple one. And they, oh yeah, it was Berenstain, and they get this look all of a sudden, and they stare off in the distance. And then they look back at you and give you the entire Wikipedia of today.
Oh.
So really what it is, it's like there's a collective consciousness of the way things are. And it almost appears that when people look at something, they'll go off of their individual memory and then they'll reset it once it doesn't align with the collective. And it's like you can almost see it happen in real time. So they get like the dual memory. They'll remember it the way it used to be, but it's like they get a download of the collective consciousness of how it is as well. So that's kind of the idea, right?
I see. And then it depends on who they are.
Right.
Are they what I call a source player, or are they considered like an NPC character?
Right. Are they going to blow it off, or are they going to realize, oh, I actually see two different versions of how it was, or I must have been mistaken, which I've been all, along that whole range, gradient range, if you will.
My theory is we all receive the download, but we don't all install it. And the reason I say that, somebody can mention this has changed, and before they tell me what the change is, I can already pretty well guess exactly what it is.
Yep.
Like to the, or, it could be something small or something big, a letter even, but I can almost immediately guess what the change changed to.
Yeah.
Now, and you've had this experience too. So how
just earlier when he played that song, it happened. Remember, I was like, oh, the two sounds wrong. It used to be the, you know what I mean?
Right.
It used, and I just kind of knew from the way it sounded to listen for it. And I knew right away. Yeah.
It's like we have the data to access, but it's not installing and overriding the data we already have for those of us who have the strong memory.
Sometimes it does over time. I'll forget which way something went on some of them. So it's really strange.
But that's been one theory I've been working on, is we all receive it because we're all able to pull the data, but we don't all install it the same way, or don't all install it at all, if that be the case, or whatever the case may be.
We don't all address it the same way.
Or accept it, address it, yes.
Address it. That's a segue into the next slide.
Address. What about address? Oh, address. Yeah.
Address. Yeah.
The Marilyn Monroe dress specifically, sticking with the musical theme once again, Mr. President's dress. So would either one of you like to attempt it? Because I'm not going to.
This was all news
I'm
to me.
Take that as a,
I
want to take that as a no.
I've seen Marilyn in the dress before, and I remember it, the one on the left. It had like that goldish shimmer to it.
Okay, so was she the only one to ever wear this dress? What do you remember?
Oh, is that
Marilyn Monroe's? Yes.
Oh, it wasn't like the color of the dress. It was like,
was she the only one to wear it, or somebody else wore this dress? What do you remember?
Yeah.
Because to me, this would have been put in a museum, never to be touched again.
You're talking about the actual dress?
The actual dress itself, yes.
Oh.
Do you ever remember it being pulled out and used past Marilyn Monroe? No.
Could have been before. Could have been like the Queen of England from 200 years ago, and maybe they put it.
Could have been.
Okay, so yeah, I know nothing about this dress. I remember the hello, Mr. or the Mr. President thing a little bit, but
right. So this should have been, once again, in my opinion, put in a museum on a shelf, never to be touched again, only to be admired for the beauty and the glory of what it was involved in. Next slide, please. However,
somebody knows it. Yellow Sun says
somebody's guessed.
Kim Kardashian wore it. No,
Kim Kardashian says Yellow Sun. Yeah. Madonna says Rebecca B. Maybe someone before Marilyn says Rose. High altitude Aurora program, says Soup Dragon. I think they may be a couple hours behind. Kim Kardashian, says Deanna. Next slide, please, producer. Kim Kardashian wore the dress, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, okay. That's the actual dress that Marilyn wore?
That is the actual dress that Marilyn wore. Yes, sir.
Well, it's held up well over the years.
Until she wore it, now it's full of rips and tears and lost jewels, and she really ran it through the ringer.
How did she get a hold of it?
Right. Why? How? I don't remember this happening. I'm not a celebrity guy, so they could do anything, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't remember that. That's just not a thing for me. That's not my world.
There is the concept that, everyone's vibrating at a different frequency, right? We all have our signature frequencies, and that our clothing can absorb that frequency. That's why, like, a girlfriend may want to wear your clothes because it has the frequency remind you. They smell the pheromones, and it's also the same frequency. So you wonder too if it's another level where she's trying to absorb some of all of the amazing things that Marilyn had. Just how people were just mystified just looking at her. She was just so popular. So, yeah.
And it has gems all over it. Crystals store energy too. So.
Correct.
Yeah. So there you go. I wonder how much that dress is worth.
Oh, I'm sure more than any one of us would make in a year, including yourself.
Even after it's been destroyed.
Even after it's been destroyed.
Because now it's got another frequency inside of it. To me, it's been devalued.
Yeah.
Right. The original frequency is probably dissipated, and now it's who is this? Right. Kardashian?
Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. So now
and
frequency.
We know that particular group of people, not necessarily the Kardashians, but the celebrities, do believe in a lot of the essence and things of the magical nature. We know that for a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you could be right. Perhaps she was trying to take on the essence of a Marilyn Monroe or something to that degree, to take in that energies, if you will.
Yeah.
But do you remember Kim Kardashian wearing Mr. President's dress? I don't. But again, I'm not a follow celebrity guy, so that kind of tracks for me. But what do you remember? I'm sure a lot of women out there will be ringing in on this. And if you are not in the chat, if you're watching us after the show, definitely comment section right below. We want to hear what you have to say. Go ahead, Chris.
I don't have anything.
Oh, look like you were about to say so. Look like you were waiting for me to shut up.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right. So who does have a lot to say, though, is one of an actor and comedian that I've watched for quite a bit. Get the words out, Jerry. Use your words. Use your words. Try again. An actor and comedian that I've watched over the years.
We got Rizwan next.
Oh, thank you.
Before we go on, Marilyn Monroe's Mr. President's dress sold in 1999 at an auction in New York City for over $1.26 million, equivalent to $2.17 million in 2023. Canadian billionaire Jim Pattison subsequently purchased the dress on November 17, 2016. And then in 2022, reality TV star Kim Kardashian wore the dress, as we saw in that picture. So, yeah. So it went for over $1 million, over $2 million in today's money.
Holy cow. Again, why is it not in a museum? Why is it being sold at auction? I don't understand any of that.
I don't know. Paisley says her butt's too big for the dress. You think that's what did the damage, Paisley?
So, next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, show friend of ours, Rizwan Virk, who's been on here with us at least once and still stays in contact from time to time, was on Joe Rogan the other day. Did you see this, Chris?
I did. I saw it, I believe it was last week. And it was quite the interview. It was really interesting because, we had Rizwan on our show. He was one of our guests, which I think was awesome. talking about the books that he wrote about simulation theory and all that and game theory. And he got into Mandela effects. And I think that from when he was talking, I don't know if you've seen it, Shane.
I didn't have time. I didn't know it got released. I saw where he sent out that he's going to be on there, and that's all I noticed.
Yeah, so it got released, and one of the things he was using as a point about how Mandela effects can show us that we're in a simulation, he was talking about the thinker statue.
Oh wow!
And it made me think of you.
Yep.
And he was using examples about how it's changed from on that forehead to under the chin, and now it's like an open hand.
Yeah.
And yet there'll be pictures of people under the statue, and they'll all be like this on their forehead, and the statue's like this, the way it is now, Rodin's The Thinker statue.
Yeah. So and there's the one with all the softball girls in it. There's like 16 or 17 softball girls with all of their fists to their forehead. It's like everybody got it wrong. I don't think so. And you can tell it wasn't staged. They all just took a picture real quick. There's parents around and stuff like that. It wasn't, they were trying to pull.
And he's bringing that point up to Joe, as well as giving him basically a quiz. He ran Joe through the quiz.
Oh, cool! I got to check it out.
Yeah, the University of Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jerry, did you see the interview too with Rizwan?
I see a portion of the interview, the important part of the interview, if you will. I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I thought it was like really good, and he was also talking about Philip K. Dick. And sci-fi writer that wrote Man in the High Castle, Total Recall, Blade Runner, etc. And how Rizwan had interviewed his wife Tess, and how what Philip K. Dick was talking about, like at Metz, France in 1977, he gave like a speech, and people were kind of laughing at him. But basically, the whole concept of the speech is how he remembered Nazi Germany winning the war. He had actually memories of Germany and Japan winning the war. And, he talked about the Christians, and the Christians were more like the freedom fighters, not like Christians that we think of today. They were kind of against the whole police state concept. And how Philip K. Dick said that, unfortunately, he couldn't think of a way to scientifically prove, the simulation theory, except with our own memory. Like you could go in your car and go to adjust an air vent in your car at a certain location, and that air vent is no longer there. It's on the other side. And you're like, how did that happen? Or a light switch in your bathroom has always been on this wall, and now it's on this wall. So these are the kind of things that Philip K. Dick was saying that. So he was seeing how these different timelines were working and all these different simulations. And he was like actually having memories of it. And Rizwan was bringing all these things up to Joe Rogan. So to me, it's just bringing more and more attention to the whole concept of the Mandela effect and what's going on with that, because when people first learn about it, it's like, we all know it's fascinating. And then you start to ask the questions, right? So it's all good that it's getting more and more into the mainstream.
Shane, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of when the hot and the cold switched for people, and then they were like, I never had a problem with remembering which way it is, but ever since it switched, it's like it was so programmed one way that I can't remember how to go now. So for some people, they're hot and cold switch. I think Jamie years ago said that, the hot's on the left and the cold's on the right. But it's like one of those things that you can't prove it if it happens. If it changes, you just have to remember how it was, with no proof. So most people just blow it off if they don't know about the Mandela effect,
Right. Oh, I was wrong, or just try to rationalize it, or maybe I made a mistake. I looked at it wrong. I did this, I did that, or that, or that, or that, or that. When in reality, it's none of that.
Right.
Right.
I've thought that about a lot of things. Oh, they
reality,
changed the logo.
Way.
Wonder why they did that. Before I knew.
Oh, that's a huge one. Even after learning about the Mandela Effect, that's still, I find myself, oh, they changed the logo. Wait a second. They didn't change it. They
right. Totally. I've been there before.
A grocery store would drive you nuts. Oh man, Chris, I'm sure you've spent a number of hours in a grocery store filming. I'm kidding. Like a grocery store would drive you nuts, though.
You mean with like the brand changes, or like
yes.
Captain Crunch going to Captain Crunch or whatever the hell it is? Yeah. Yeah, it's all really interesting. Again, it just shows another level of how the reality works. And you guys know too, like I talk about concepts about like things only are appearing for source players as we need to see them. Like the whole reality doesn't render at once.
Mhm.
So you've got the food in the refrigerator, you close the refrigerator door. Is the food still there? Well, you open it again and it's still there. You close it for a month, you open it up and it's all spoiled. Like what's actually happening? Is the way the reality works, is it constantly rendering something, or does it make the calculations so that the next time you view it again, it has the necessary changes? Double slit experiment. Observer changes the observed. Like we know this. We know this is how the reality works. We know that electrons can have different wave patterns or particle patterns, etc. So yeah, it's all taking these things to the next level to help us see how the reality works. And
Like Schrodinger's. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Like
Schrodinger's cat, sure.
yeah,
Alive or
Schrodinger's
dead.
fridge.
Schrodinger's fridge. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, is it empty or full? Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got, furthering that idea, the experiments from like Dr. Emoto,
Yeah.
the water experiments, where you can write words on, say, a jar of rice in your fridge and change the pattern in which it molds or lacks
Yeah.
thereof. The amount of time that it takes to spoil, as you said, with the door closed or whatever the case may be. Just very fascinating how you can take little things like that and literally manipulate reality at the base level.
Now think about that though. If you're saying negative things to yourself or your spouse all the time, and there's, well, I don't know, it's probably changed. I thought we're 2/3 water, but we're filled with water, right? And it's like you're changing the water
Right.
at a molecular level by sending negative thoughts at yourself or at someone else. It's the same as the rice. The rice just makes it to where we can see it in action. You can see it getting moldy from sending it hate or whatever,
Exactly.
You know what, Shane, you just
So-
brought up something that we were talking about, actually, I think via email, about what percent of water is the human body.
Mm-hmm.
And like most people like myself,
Yes.
there being like a high percentage, like 80 or 90% of our body is water. But that's not the way it is now in this reality. It's 60% for men and 55% for women.
I remember
60
being 70 plus,
Yeah, at least
minimum
70, right?
70. Right.
At least 70. And also too, our
Crazy.
brains have changed, because now they say that there's different things, but at least 50% of our brain is used for visual processing. At least 50% of our brain is used for vision. And I don't remember it being that high of a number before. I saw some sites that say as high as 80% of our brain is used for visual processing. So again, are these Mandela effects? Did I just misremember that the human body was at least 80% water? That our brain wasn't used so much for visual? And maybe that explains too why, I don't, for myself, I think for you too, Shane, like things are brighter. Like there's colors pop. We see things coming out of this, like there's colors that come out of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is our brain starting to change so we can process more of what the reality is around us? So,
and it's also interesting that they say that our third eye has an optical nerve. It connects into the same part of the brain as our regular eyes, and it's pretty much like a third eye in there.
Ooh.
And if we're devoting more to that, then that means not only our regular eyes, we're devoting more energy or processing power to our third eye as well. So that's pretty cool. So that would enhance dreams and insights and intuition and things like that. So in essence, because of us being all a little different, it would be gifts of different kinds for people. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They say that the pineal gland is, the third eye, like in the center of our brain, is kind of the lens that projects the reality that's around us, that we observe and see. So yeah, it's all like really fascinating. But I think that a lot of, and we have now cryptochromes in our eyes, the magnetic sensors in our eyes we've talked about before that I don't ever remember hearing about. So all these things are changing that I think is going to change the way we see the world. It's going to remove the veils that have been put in place to keep us dumbed down to think this is all that there is, and how the Earth's magnetic fields are changing. They're weakening or going, what I call going back to normal, the way they should be. So we have all these things that are going to start happening that I think as we move into the future is going to be wonderful for a lot of us and kind of scary for people that aren't ready to see what they may want to see. So, or what's always been around them, and all of a sudden they'll start to catch glimpses of things that were always there that they just had no idea about. So more things for us to keep in mind for the future.
Have you guys ever known somebody who seems to all of a sudden have a different personality?
Oh, yeah.
You had that happen, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Shane? Have you
That's
experienced
interesting. That's interesting because I hear that a lot, right? I actually went to Google Trends and typed in people seem different. And it's like about the last 5 years, it started trending upward of people looking at that because people are noticing it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be searching on it. So what you're saying, everybody's experiencing it because it's showing up on Google Trends. People seem different.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Now that's interesting. I know I first noticed that about 2010, 8, 10, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I can't remember what. I want to say it was 10, maybe it was 8. But anyway, my circle of friends played musical personalities overnight on me, and that blew my mind. But apparently there's been some more celebrity style shiftiness going on. If we could pull our next slide up, please. It appears that actor and comedian Terrence Howard may be shifted a little differently in this reality. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was going to say this is, again, Terrence was on the Joe Rogan show. He did like a 3-hour interview. Lots of views.
I want to go on Joe. Everybody goes on Joe. I want to go on Joe.
What's interesting in Terrence Howard, like, sacred geometry, there's no such thing as a straight line. Everything is a curve, like all the things he was talking about. So most of us know him as an actor. Like I only knew him as an actor, being in shows and so forth. But before he became an actor, he was really involved in all of this alternate type things, quantum reality, propulsion systems. He was into Tesla. Now, for me, I don't know Terrence well enough to say that's how he's always been. I've just never knew him to be on the completely different intellectual side than he's been portrayed in roles that I've seen him play. And I've only known him as an actor. So when I was watching this interview with Joe Rogan, I was wondering if perhaps we are in a reality where we have a higher frequency version of Terrence, and where in the past, like maybe we don't remember these things because he never actually was into it. But like I think I saw a video of him in the 90s. He had this great big hair and he's talking about quantum physics and so forth. And that just totally shocked me. And that's kind of the way I believe what's going to be happening when these timelines start to merge even more, is that we'll have versions of ourselves that did things that we don't ever remember, or maybe we do remember, that other people will say they remember or they don't remember, depending on what they remember, just like a typical kind of Mandela effect. So we should be on the lookout for not just people's names changing, how they're spelled, but also the person themselves. Has that person's personality actually changed? One of my first videos, I talked about Gilligan's Island, and I remembered Bob Denver, that played Gilligan, always had brown eyes and a white hat. And then it went to green eyes and a tan hat, for example. And did his green eyes begin to like represent something different about him? Like were we in another timeline version where maybe not just his eye color changed, but maybe his personality changed a little bit? Mm-hmm. So these are the kind of things I think we should keep on the lookout for. And this one with Terrence really stood out to me. So I don't know if anyone else saw the interview, but it was I can't say I agree with everything he was saying, but it's still, he's like moving the conversation ahead to talk more about these things that the mainstream doesn't want us to. And one of the things he was talking about, how he's always been afraid to be like more public with this. And I believe too, from my last Symphony of Realities video that I made, that we're now in an era where we have safety, so that if we have a solution, whether it be for, power systems, propulsion, whatever it is, like I believe that we're now in a phase where we could actually bring these things out, and we should not be afraid of like, the global narrative is going to come and do something to us or threaten us or something like that. So we've like hit an important milestone going into the golden timeline. So Terrence talking about these things and about how he feels that they're really going to advance humanity and help bring us from a level 1 civilization to possibly a level 2 or a level 3 civilization. Like all these things are totally positive, and the way I see things moving into that golden timeline concept, the new renaissance, so to speak.
So
That's
I
awesome. I
remember
totally
Terrence
agree.
being a lot more business minded. Yeah, a smart guy, like you said, quantum physics, science, stuff like that, but not so much on the spiritual side as he seems to be now. I don't really recall him speaking a whole lot at all ever spiritually, like he's been doing lately. That's new to me. That may be a different Terrence. Again, he was always business oriented. Yeah, a smart guy in science, but that just wasn't what you heard from Terrence. He was always talking about his movies and his shows, and a very business sided guy, which was awesome. I respect that. That's cool. But yeah, Empire, for instance, when he was in Empire, he was full business, 100%. There was no, nothing else to it. I've never heard him sit down and discuss with anyone this whole spiritual side of life, and the concepts he's getting into is just really, really interesting now. So I think we may be looking at a shifty Terrence.
It was a pretty cool interview for anybody that hasn't seen it. I would say check it out. He talks about a lot of interesting things. I found it really intriguing. I even like the fractal nature of sort of how he unfolded the solar system was similar to the way he kind of unfolded the periodic table. And I think when you can see things work in that fractal nature like that, in a whole new way, because I never thought of it that way. So it was really cool, what he was explaining, just as to expand your awareness, because I never even thought of some of the concepts he was bringing out. Good
some of the
food for thought.
perspective he puts forward is really mind-boggling.
Yeah,
Rose says it's like a downloading a personality. Those may be one in the same connected. Actually, that's a really interesting point. Never thought about that. The next one, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an interesting discussion. This next one. Next slide, please. So our friend Trey Caladan has sent us this evidence of map residue, at least in my opinion, but we don't always all share the same opinion here. Next slide, please. As you guys can see, it's supposed to be the world map. I've zoomed it in as best I can. To me, this looks closer to what we remember on the world map. I would argue that the left side of South America is much closer to California than it is now. It's not under it by any means, but it's much closer than it is on current maps, in my opinion. So I think this looks a lot more like what we remember. However, Chris, you have a different perspective on this, do you, sir?
Yeah, I do. To me, it looks, well, it's kind of a weird world map, right? You look at Baja California,
right?
And you look at Florida, and it's like, you see that Cuba is really big, and that's kind of the way Cuba is. Cuba kept growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. For me, I remember like in the 90s into the early 2000s, I'd always go to the Caribbean, to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and American Airlines, and have a magazine. This is before they had screens built into the backs of the seats. And I'd always look at the world map and for the Caribbean area, and I'd always be like, man, Cuba's getting bigger and bigger. Like every year, Cuba would change, it would shift a little bit. Because I would always like stare at these details because you're kind of bored. So I'm just like looking at the map for 30 minutes. And then I got to a certain point where I was going to contact American Airlines and write them a letter to say like, hey, your map making people need to get their act together because things keep on changing. Like it's not the way it was before. But, when I see this, it still looks like South America is pushed out towards Africa to me. So for me, this isn't the best residue, but if you can see things that are similar to the way you remember it, that's totally cool. For me, this isn't necessarily the best. And the whole Mexico.
And Shane, what do you think? I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to add like the whole Mexico, Central America part. Like that doesn't look quite right either, but it's a Pez dispenser.
Right.
Right.
Like it's not exactly a 1-to-1, right?
Yeah,
Right.
filled with sugar to make your kids hyper. Yeah.
Well, I definitely agree with both of you guys. I think it's definitely closer to how it used to be, but not. It's still pushed out to the right, like Chris said, out to the east. But I don't feel like it's as bad as it was. So I'm kind of feeling like it's, in between where it used to be and where it is now. But there's a lot wrong with it too. So I don't know. It just almost looks like
I will concede this, Chris. Over here on this left edge, the lower section kind of lines up with Florida a little bit. I can kind of see that. So I will concede that much. But again, it's a Pez dispenser. So.
we want to thank Trey for sending it in. Like, we
Yeah,
appreciate him, and we appreciate all the work that he's doing related to Mandela Effects.
Absolutely getting the word out there. Trey Calladan's doing a great job of that. But this is interesting. This is something that I've never seen before till he sent it to us. Definitely something that looks like they were trying to maybe portray the way we remember it, but they may not have nailed it quite so much.
It might not be quite right.
But it is interesting that they pointed out Cuba on this map too and how big it is. They pointed out Baja California, though they've got it shaped funny. They pointed out South America that we know is Mandela Effect. It is interesting the things that are shown.
Yeah.
So I want to know what you guys think. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Chris? Do you agree with Shane? Do you agree with me and Chris? I'd love to know your thoughts both here in the chat and, of course, down below in the comments section. So we're going to try to speed this up just a little bit as we've got about 10 minutes left. B-Shine, bring up our next slide here. B-Shine. So, Chris, what is this?
Okay, so this is a very interesting, for me, at least, a very interesting.
For me too. Yeah, I'm right with you on this one, Chris.
Yeah, so basically what honeybees, well, yeah, we'll watch the video here as we're talking about it, but this is a honeybee nest. And what happens is the honeybees in unison will flip their abdomens to scare away predators like wasps or hornets. Now, when I first came across this, I'm like, I have never seen such a thing like this in my life. I've never known honeybees to do this on their nest, but it's a thing. And I know that I posted this in one of those Mandela Effect groups.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and some people, this always was the reality. Honeybee nests always worked this way, but for me it wasn't. So I don't know, how anyone else feels about this, and it also goes into the concept about like what's actually happening with these beehives and consciousness and how it works with the bees. So there's the concept where people have heard of things like the beehive mind, or in Star Trek, they have the Borg concept. But is it possible that a beehive, a bee's nest, all has a singular consciousness, perhaps controlled by the queen? And that's why, like, you've heard stories about, like, if you were to kill a bee, there's no other bees around, somehow the other bees can find you because they know that you're the one that like squashed one of the bees, type of thing. How does that happen? So there's the whole concept that a bee's nest has a singular consciousness that allows them to do things like this. And I found other videos too where there would be a series of honeybee nests, and they all will make buzzing tones at different times, and like they're organized and how they do their toning besides flipping their abdomens like this. So anyone else, like, if this is new for you, let us know. But for me, this is definitely a big personal one.
Rose has never seen that before. Totally never seen that before, actually. And I'm with you, Rose. That's new to me too. I've never, ever seen this at all.
That is really cool. I would have remembered those for sure.
And Chris, you said you were talking to someone, I think we were talking about this off air, said that they've seen this in cartoons and all kind of different things.
Like there's like cartoons that show like honeybees work this way. So I miss those episodes of Looney Tunes.
Same here. Maybe it was the Looney Tunes that we didn't get to watch, right? The other one.
Right. Well, producer Heather brought something up that was cool, and it is kind of like in the stadium where we all do the wave, you know?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Really, really fascinating there. I just, how do they know? And if I seen this in a cartoon, I would assume it was part of the cartoon.
Right.
It was something that the editor, the animator added. I wouldn't assume that that's something that analogs to reality.
Yeah, that's really cool.
You know.
Very cool.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Bee shine.
Yeah.
Next.
I was going to say, just add one more thing to this. So for those of you that, have the whole concept to believe in extraterrestrials and so forth, and there's insectoid races that are known to be like highly psychic, do they also have the ability to very easily communicate with themselves using, psychic powers, so to speak? So it just one more, as above, so below. It's just like one more clue as to way the reality works, not just here on the surface world, but perhaps other realms besides the one that we're in. So just more things to think about.
Jack K says, hey, for me, bees have always done this, but I heard they did it to cool themselves on hot days. So it looks like the story has changed here. Instead of cooling themselves on hot days, they're now doing it to scare away predators. So that may be a Mandela effect in and of itself. For those who may have heard it for that reason, it is a completely different reason now. Jack Key, I believe, is in France, if I'm not mistaken, if it's the same person I'm thinking of. Glad to see you over here with us. Glad to see you jumped on and listening today and interacting with us, Jack Key. I believe that's a person from over at Miss Eva's Once Upon a Timeline channel that has hopped over here to hang out with us.
You know what? We should have Eva on the show.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, she should. We should ask her. She's got so many of these.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll extend an invite to her if she'd like to come on and join us sometime soon.
Yeah, please.
Be a special guest.
Cool.
Reality shifts, Mandela effects, glitches in the matrix. Your questions, ladies and gentlemen. Do you have a question about stuff we presented today that we haven't been able to cover so far? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Scottish Highlands. Okay, not French. My apologies, Jackie. But go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and we will cover them here in just a moment as our question comment section is coming up very, very shortly using the format question with a question mark. All right, moving on. We have our sponsors, ladies and gentlemen, our sponsors of the month. And we're going to be changing how we do this too. We're going to take the word sponsors out of that, I do believe, and change it to something else. The idea here, for those that don't know, sponsors, we're not paid to do this at all. These are mandanimals, and we thought it'd be a cute way to present them to you guys. So
they pay us with their love.
They pay us with their love, exactly. This one here is as adorable as it is ugly and fascinating to boot. The great-eared nightjar. Chris, I swear I seen this on another cartoon called How to Train Your Dragon.
I know, it does look like a dragon, doesn't it? What actually is a great-eared nightjar? Is it in like the owl family?
I think it is. It's a bird of some type.
It definitely looks like a dragon. Like a cute little dragon.
This is the closest thing I've ever seen to a dragon. This is wild. We did cover this, I guess, in 2022 at one point. I don't exactly remember covering, but I guess we did. But it looks more dragon-like now, I guess, than it did even back then. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, the great-eared nightjar. Now, in the cartoon How to Train Your Dragon, the babies are called night lights, if I'm not mistaken. Found that out from our producer earlier. She told me the babies are called night lights. So the night jar is really, really interesting name for these. This is a real creature, ladies and gentlemen. Swear to God, this is a real creature that really exists out in the wild. I don't think they're in North America, but there's about to be because I want a pet.
I know, right? I think they're primarily in India and Southeast Asia.
Dude, could you imagine if it actually became a dragon? Could we be going down that road? What do you guys think? Could this morph eventually into a legit version of what we would call a dragon?
Oh, I don't know about that, but it's interesting. It's cool that dragons get attention this way, but yeah.
Yeah.
Chris's next pet.
Yeah, I know. Can we get him as a pet? Oh,
I bet your cat would love it.
oh yes. Or maybe they'd be good friends. I don't know. Yeah, that would be super interesting, right?
I could see them becoming friends and teaming up against the humans, right? Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, all my life, I've been told that this white buffalo, white bison, is stupidly, incredibly rare. Like super, super rare, once in a lifetime event. You're not going to find a white buffalo. The white bison is a very rare thing that you're only going to find at the end times. Ladies and gentlemen, within 1 week, April 30th, 2024, a 1 in 10 million white bison calf born in Colorado. Within that same week, May 6th, 2024, rare white bison calves born in Kansas and Texas in the same week. So we actually have 3 here if we go by our count. 3 different white buffalo calves. Gentlemen, are we in the end times?
Well, I think if Cynthia was here, she would talk about how the white bison was sort of a peaceful sign for the indigenous people.
The Lakota tribe, to be specific, spoke of the white
Okay.
buffalo woman. Yes.
Yeah, I wish she was here to bring some insight into that, because it does. You have to listen to the indigenous people because they were really connected, with land and all the signs and stuff like that.
It is definitely a sign, like Cynthia would say, I'm sure, that we are headed for a golden timeline, unquestionably, with the amount of protector bison we've had coming into the play. Now, Chris, do you get a read on these protectors? Anything you want to share there? I don't want to influence it. I know what I'm thinking. But
yeah, so what I would say is that, like, this isn't, like, it's not as uncommon as we thought, like with them both being born at the same time. I think we covered this on another IMEC a while ago, season 1 or season 2, about the white bison. Yeah, so the white buffalo, the white bison, we've definitely been coming across this. And yeah, I think, again, it's the sign of something good. And it's, for me, I see things on one degree as an end. I'll call it like the end of time and the beginning of something new. So
right.
And that's how these things work in cycles. Like, one cycle ends and then a new cycle begins. So one age ends and another age begins. So the proliferation of these white bison calves and white bison becoming more and more popular, I think overall is good. Absolutely.
So my feeling here is I feel we're getting more and more of specifically the white calf as a protector for each realm. One protector of land, one protector of sky, one protector of water, one protector of... Though they're all bison, still I feel they would have different protecting elements because we're having so many of them show up all at once.
Yeah, it's definitely that super protector concept with these animals. Absolutely. With the white animals, whether they be moose or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And I could be wrong. I don't have the sensitivity that you have, of course, but that's the first thing that came to mind.
No, it's good. I like that.
Yeah. I think a lot of the things we've been seeing are signs. Even the aurora being seen so far south was part of some prophecy I heard. I couldn't find the source on it, but I think that's interesting because it hasn't happened in so long, and it happened with way less solar radiation than usual because of the magnetic field of the Earth being lowered. So, yeah, so it's just interesting. And I think we have a lot of signs like that. So it's really exciting. I actually have to dip out, you guys, for just a second. I'll be back in just a few minutes.
All right, bud. Rebecca B. and Susie Gemini both were taught when they were kids that both buffalo were extinct. Chris, does this sound familiar to you? Have you heard this before?
Yeah, that does ring a bell, that the actual like American buffalo went extinct. Exactly. Yeah, so I'll have to think about that some more, but that does somewhat sound familiar to me.
Rebecca B says, I wanted a photo to draw one by, and my teacher told me no photos exist of buffalo, as photography was invented after their extinction.
That's
wow. So that's new to me. I've known people who have said this, but I never was taught that.
Yeah, that does seem like something that's interesting. You know what, yeah, not talking about buffalo, but that reminds me of another man. I keep running across these Mandela effects like constantly. I remember something when I was in history class, New York State history, about someone named Ethan Allen. This is during like in the 1700s, and he worked with a group. His military force was called the Green Mountain blank. So Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain whatever. I always remember it being Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Men. And now in this reality, it's always been Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys. And I'm like, nope, it was never boys. And for some reason, like that was one of those, like, I remember hearing about that multiple times. You know how things get locked into your memory? Like you hear the story about blah, 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 and you remember it. For some reason, you keep remembering it over and over again. I always remember Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Men and Fort Ticonderoga and those stories. And then I recently came across it with Green Mountain Boys. I'm like, no, they were not the boys, they were the men. So, but basically all these things that we remember is super fascinating. And then I'm starting to like go through my past memories and then communicating with my higher self or eternal self, saying, was that a real memory or was that an implanted memory? And I've been going through things recently, and I've come across some things that were implanted memories. So there's other layers to like for us to discover, like, how does all this stuff work? And in this next video that I've got all these notes, everything, I'm trying to put everything together to make like a cohesive video. But that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about. Like, are our memories themselves real, or can they be implanted with another memory that never actually happened, perhaps to disguise something else that did happen? So yeah, it's really fascinating. But
Rebecca B says mountain men. Exactly.
oh, she remembers Mountain Men too. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was always the Mountain Men. Yeah, now it's the Mountain Boys.
So I don't have anything on this one. I don't know either way. So I'm not going to chime in on that. I just don't know it. But that's interesting. You've got somebody backing you up there, Chris. Mountain Men.
Thank you. I'm not alone.
So that shows at least two independents. So that right there screams Mandela Effect. If I have at least two people who don't really know each other who independently say, yeah, that's how I remember. Okay, now we got something. Next slide, please. Questions or comments from you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't really see anything that has come up in the chat. We pretty well covered everything in the chat, but in the last month's episode on YouTube, as I said, we go through and we read those quite a bit. And every now and then we'll grab one to bring over. Chris, regarding the golden smokestacks ME for the Titanic, I wonder if it has anything to do with the banking systems returning to a gold-back or asset-backed system. This comes from at b.johnny369. Chris, what do you think?
By the way, I think that's Barbie. So hello, Barbie Johnny, if that's you. I don't like when I see the golden smokestacks. To me, that signifies more of like another change. Something has turned gold, like the golden smokestack, golden animals, those type of concepts, signs that we're moving into the golden timeline. When it comes to like banking systems and assets, I think all of us realize that the way things work now has to change because it's not based on anything real. So what will the future of trading be? Will it be true trading this for this? Will it be a gold-based or a silver-based currency? Will it be things in the crypto world? Will it be this? I don't know. I don't really have any clear answers to that. I'm not sure if I want to know. some things I want to be a surprise to be like, oh, that's how it happens, or this is how other civilizations have done it. How did Atlantis do it? How did Lemuria do it? Did they actually have to have a currency system? How did all of those different things work? So I can't say yes or no to that one, but I think it's a good question.
Apologies, caught me right in the middle of a yawn there. So I'm with you on that. I think it could be a science. I'm always about the prophecy theory. This is one that's really grabbed a hold of me since I've really started working on it. Aside from, of course, space theory that you and I work on, but the idea that this could be prophetic in some way, that the smokestacks could be saying, or being golden could be saying, coming forward, things are going to be gold based, or we'll be going toward a gold base. I could see that as a possibility of an outcome. Yes. I don't think we're going asset backed. I really don't. I would like to see go to more like a constitutional money, right? Back to the way we were founded and originally we're supposed to be in this country. That's what I would like to see, but we got to be careful where we go with this question.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, I'll just add too, like the whole concept of the Titanic and banking systems and the Federal Reserve, like who was on that boat when the boat went down? Who died? Like John Astor IV, who at that time was the richest man in the world. All these people that were against the formation of the Federal Reserve, everything that J.P. Morgan wanted to advocate, they all went down with the ship. So I think what Barbie's saying here is good. Like, I think she sees those connections, but as far as what that could possibly be in the future, I don't know if any of us know that.
and I would agree with that. I don't think any of us could know for sure. But I do think Mandela effects are prophetic. I really do. The more we see come to light in reality, the more I wonder, it's always a negative too. Like it always ends up being something bad that we could have went back from I'm going to be very careful my wording here, from rainbows to J.C. Penney to Frederick's Victoria's Secret to, we've seen many, many things that have gotten twisted in recent times. Moving on, next up, a special thank you to our current and new Patreon sponsors. Gold level Jody, Colleen Learley, Stephanie Clay, James, J.D. Peterson, Paul Ellis, Bo Kim. Special shout out to Bo Kim, #1 donation each year over year so far. Allison Eastman, Gail Brown, Teresa Richards, Belinda Anders, and Lori Glasner. Silver level, been with us over 6 months. Laura Bortman, Jojo Williams, Vit Hartman, Lisa Henderson, Laura Monson, Kathleen Wright, William, Sylvia Bondurant, Ann Gaynor, and Linnae Harlia. I'm really proud of myself, Chris, for getting these names right so far. I really am. Stop the Presses, Consciousness Watch, slipping in with a $50 super sticker. We've got Godzilla Pair,
All right,
jumping up and down, waving the flags in excitement. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Consciousness Watch, for the $50 donation. Any donations you give us here are tax write-off. We are a 501c3, which means we are a charitable organization. So you are literally giving a donation, which make sure you save your receipt on that for tax purposes if that is what you do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back to our Patreon. Thank you so very much, Consciousness Watch. Back to our Patreon sponsors. I've got one last level left to read out. If we could go back one, please, producer. There we go. Bronze level newcomers. I did not get this list out before we jump screen. Andrew Christie, Karen Kite, and Kathleen Downing. Welcome to our newcomers. Special thanks to our silver level, and deep appreciation for our gold level who have been with us the longest. You guys are absolutely amazing. It's thanks to every last one of you that we're able to do what we do. You guys really help support IMEC financially and physically. You guys help us get the word out there. You guys help us do what we do to put on these events, whether it be a video event or the live in person event we have coming up in November. We'll get to that in just a minute. Slide, please. Special thank you to current and new Patreon sponsors. See exclusive content here, IMEC News, and be the first to find out details about our event. Next slide, please. Speaking of our events, ladies and gentlemen, 2024 4th Annual International Mandela Effect Conference. The annual summit will be held in Nashville, Tennessee this year. And if you're a Patreon member, folks, we've got a special deal for you. Go ahead and scan that QR code right now. If you're a Patreon member, $25 off of both your ticket and your plus ones ticket. So that's a $50 savings all the way around just for our Patreon members. A little kickback for you guys since you give to us so very much through the year. We want to give a little bit back to our Patreon. So there we go. Special price. If you want to go sign up for a Patreon membership, you will automatically be available for this. This is any tier. Old, new, doesn't matter. You will access that ability to get that discount. So again, tickets are on sale, regular and discounted, over at imec.world, imec.world, imec.world. The revamped website looks so amazing. And here we go. The 2024 International Mandela Effect Conference, 4th annual meeting, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Nashville, Tennessee. This is going to be at the Mount Juliet Garden Inn and Suites in Nashville, Tennessee. That's right. These are pictures from the hotel, I do believe. Yes, these are pictures from the hotel itself. So absolutely amazing place. I've been there in person. It is gorgeous. I cannot wait to share it with you guys. Huge, gargantuan conference room. Lots of meeting space, lots of areas to sit and talk and converse. And like the two guys here with me will back me up on, that's the best part of the conference. There are amazing speakers, but the ability to sit and chat and talk to people of like mind that you can actually relate to, opposed to the general public, that is probably the best. And we've got a lot of area for that at this hotel, as well as food and other provisions that will be available there. So much going on, ladies and gentlemen, so much excitement, so ready to see every last one of you there. November 7th through the 10th, 2024. Get your tickets now before they sell out. They will go quick. I know that sounds crazy. Once they start going, they will go fascinatingly quick. So make sure you get yours. And P.S., they have already started. Ladies and gentlemen, mark your calendars for November 7th through the 10th. Also, mark your calendars for the upcoming shows that we have next month, Wednesday, June 26, 2024. We will be right back here on the air with you with a brand new slew of Mandela Effects and conversational topics to share. Hopefully, Miss Cynthia will be able to join us next month, as once again our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family as she has business that she must tend to today. And I do believe that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Chris, any final words for our amazing audience?
I would just Cynthia, we missed your frequency today, so I'm sure she'll be back with us on our next show. So just wanted to say that. Thank you, everyone, for having a great conversation. Thank the audience for all their input. And in the words of Chumbawamba, I get knocked down, but I get up again. Chumbawamba. I still can't get over that one, but
yeah, it's no
You're
longer
never going to keep
Chumbawamba.
Chris down.
yeah, right.
You're
I
never
will
going to
add-
keep Chris down.
I will add to that what you were just saying about the get together and everything. I mean, I've always thought the Mandela Effect seemed like some divine gathering for all of us, because it just created a subject for us to all find each other with, you know. And so this conference is an extension of that. the divine gathering in person. So I really believe in that. And I feel like these are connections. These are these moments that you don't forget your whole life, connections that you make that last a lifetime. So.
I've got one really, really good friend that I'm only able to physically, well, I got 3 of them, but one really, really good friend that I've only physically able to hang out with at each conference. And it's awesome to spend that one-on-one time, to have that, that person that you're able to sit and talk and really share those deep, even if it's just once a year that you can have those kind of conversations, right?
Awesome.
Of course, it's always great to hang around the whole team. All of you guys seen in person is always absolutely amazing. So definitely something I look forward to. It's an experience you'll never forget. That I can 100% guarantee. And it's one that you'll definitely never regret. Shane, any last words?
Nope, that's it, man. Perfect.
On behalf of Cynthia Sue Larson, who's been with us in spirit, Christopher Anatra, you know him as the Quantum Businessman, Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On the Fence, and Cynthia Sue Larson's RealityShifters.com. On behalf of these amazing people, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and together we are the International Mandela Effect Conference. Remember, until next we meet, together we go,
Together
together
we grow.
we grow. Bye, everybody. Love you guys.